Hello, greetings,
Hi, Chris.
friends. Hey, Jen. Folks who have
Hi, Chris.
to spend a little bit of time with us at 10 in the morning Eastern Time. Welcome to Connect the Dots. We're at episode 9 of our bi-monthly web tech live experimental call-in show where we gather thought leaders within the web technology space and do our best to share topics and trends and make ourselves available to answer any questions anyone might have. For the folks that are new to the show, the format is quite open. We really encourage and welcome anyone out there to ask a question within the LinkedIn chat area. We have Marie and Natalie helping us behind the scenes manage everything. Thank you guys, really appreciate it. My partner in crime, Arjuna, is not available to join us today, so I'm flying solo along with our special guest, Jennifer He. The idea for this came about, I think we were listening to the car guys on NPR thinking, how cool is that people can call in and figure out how to fix their carburetor and these guys just knew the answers or they would do their best to come up with it. So we thought this was kind of a fun space, but to share some serious insights into web tech, where we're at these days, things to be thinking about, and what marketers have to consider with the variety of other things on their plate when tasked with large digital commitments. So that's what we're up to. Just a little bit about myself. My name's Chris. I'm one of the founding partners at Dotfusion. We build large digital things, websites, and mobile apps. But what I really love to do is share information, gather people together, and get involved. Um, so without further ado, we have a really great, informed, and awesome special guest today, Jennifer He, who's a friend of Dotfusion's, and her background spans across design thinking and large-scale content strategy. Jen, maybe I'll pass it over to you to introduce yourself and let
Yeah.
everyone know what you're about, and then we'll get into some discussions and answer some questions. And I notice there's folks that are joining all the time. Welcome, and please feel free to put any questions in the chat area, and we'll do our best to answer them. Jen, welcome from Shanghai. Thanks for
Yeah.
staying a little bit later.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. Hi, everyone. So right now I'm in Shanghai on vacation. So yeah, and as Chris mentioned, my background is marketing and strategy, and I use design thinking, a innovation method to do marketing to craft strategies for companies that I work with.
Super
That's who I
cool.
am.
Yeah, awesome. Uh, in conversations that I have here and there around approaches and models to solving problems, and in particular, we're talking around the tech stack and marketing, branding, and where technology meets
Mhm,
in the middle there. And one of
mhm,
your specialties is applying what you just said, design thinking to problems. Do you want to just
mhm,
share what that means to you and how you explain
mhm.
that concept of
Yeah.
design thinking?
So design thinking is an innovation method. Imagine design, because design creates things that don't exist. So it has an innovation baked into it. And it is a methodology, a mindset, and a set of tools. So basically help companies, um, find user needs, especially unmet hidden needs, and explore solutions, experiment solutions. So that's what design thinking is.
Super cool. We're just you were breaking up just a little bit there, but we heard you loud and clear. Um, one of your
Oh,
other areas of expertise is helping larger organizations
oh,
wrap their
Chris, I
head around.
cannot hear you
Oh, that's
clearly.
okay. That's all right. We see you. I think you're just having an experience where you're far away and the internet is behaving in an unpredictable way here. So while we're waiting for Jen's feed, um, I think she mentioned that she's in Shanghai right now, so it looks like she's having a little bit of a connection issue. We'll let her have a moment to get reconnected. Maybe a moment to put a shout out to everyone who's joining in and listening in. We're here talking today, as we always do, about web technology in general. But one of the particularities around today's conversation is around approaching content strategy from a design thinking perspective. And then we were going to get into talking about how does a CMO or a lead in marketing that in some cases gets tasked with large digital modernization or migration projects, how do they get organized and how do they kind of think about these things in general? Jen was a key person in a recent project that we've been working on, migrating thousands of pages from one platform to another. And it was really insightful working with her as she was able to kind of highlight some of the gaps in kind of understanding methodologies around these kind of practices. So one idea was, or one, I guess, question that we were running into with our friends in the marketing departments was kind of clarification of terms and terminology. One of these is just this concept around approaching kind of taxonomy structures and this kind of slightly older idea of sitemaps. And what is the difference between the two as we kind of adjust our language to move projects along. So I know Jen was about to share some of her ideas on communicating how to separate this idea of realizing the opportunity to restructure and recategorize and sort out content when you're moving from one large website to a new target destination that's usually based on a new content platform as well. And the main idea there was when you're reimagining taxonomies, it's the opportunity to kind of reconnect bits of information together in slightly different ways. And those ways can be tested out with different user groups and cohorts, taking advantage of the opportunity to kind of restructure or synthesize information. And I'm specifically answering a question that is, what's the difference between taxonomy and sitemap? And a sitemap is really kind of a page by page structure on how pages of information come together. Whereas in taxonomy, we might have like a section called About Us, and within About Us, there's, 8 or 9 different units of information associated underneath that category. But from a sitemap perspective, it could just be one page, but it's just a particularly long one. Maybe before I get into kind of migration strategies and stuff, I've got a question here from Mary. She asks, where should people start when they want to migrate their website? Well, awesome question. There's a few starting points. One is kind of a technology discussion, and the other is an organizational and strategic discussion. Maybe starting with the technology perspective, it's what is the driver technology-wise to migrate? Is it the authors need a more robust authoring experience, or perhaps the current state is a bunch of content on many different platforms and there's kind of a mandate to consolidate into one particular content platform? So then the process starts with a deep vetting of the pros and cons of all of the different CMS platforms, primarily starting at, do you want to port over to what we call a monolithic solution, which is kind of a large beast of a content platform that kind of does a lot of things, but everything is coupled together. The content, the experience for the authors is tightly tied together. Or do you want to go for a more headless solution where you can compose different aspects of content and data into different areas? That gives you a lot more flexibility, but it also requires a bit of change management from the authoring perspective, because the interfaces and the experience you have when managing content changes significantly. So there's some change management involved there. Hey, Jen, I see you back. Welcome back. Nice
Thank
to have
you.
you back here.
Sorry about the network here.
No worries.
That happens when you're outside the country.
That's all right. And I was just kind of continuing answering a question around where do you start when you've got a large kind of web digital migration project. And we covered a little bit about the technology, kind of what platform do you choose? What are the experiences in the platform like? Does it connect with everything you want to connect to? Do you want to go headless or monolithic? There's lots of things in there. And in particular, cybersecurity, like how does that all kind of match up? Does the platform match the requirements by your organization? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the second major thing is really around the strategy and the playbooks or frameworks for actually managing and organizing, moving all this stuff that's over here to be replaced over there. That typically starts out with like a content audit and an assessment of how much of this stuff you want to reuse or what needs to be recycled or re-edited. And it's quite an extensive and complex process that needs some tight rails to kind of keep all the moving pieces in check, because it's often not as simple as hitting an import button and everything moves from one place to the other, so to speak. We're just discovering a new project we're about to embark on that has hundreds of thousands of documents that have been around for over 10 years in a variety of different content platforms, moving to a consolidated platform. And inevitably, there's like unstructured data hiding out in different places that really needs to be thoroughly sorted out. So it kind of fits in nicely to the new platform. But hey, let's take a moment, because Jen, I really am here today to hear from you. But I'll just take a moment and welcome all the new folks who have joined us here today. We really encourage you to ask us anything, frankly, about web technology. We'll do our best to answer. And if we don't know the answers, or at least what would be a reasonable answer, we're happy to dig up and do some research and reply back. But maybe, Jen, just back to, you were talking about design thinking, which is your background. But maybe you want to share a little bit more about how you're kind of using design thinking as it relates to content strategy and helping organizations with their digital content, like kind of not social media content, but your organization's content that needs to be managed and presented somewhere.
So we are talking about, where do you start? As a design thinker, we start by framing the problem statement right, because we wanted to solve the right problems right. And how do we do that is, we use a lot of research methods. It has the quantitative and qualitative aspect to it. And we call it discovery approach. So, for your website, once you decide that you want to redesign your website or redesign your digital experience, why is that? And we wanted to know why and what are the intent. And I know that we have marketers and technologists in our audience, and the kinds of objectives of your digital property of a website, usually are two. One is sales conversion, so it has an e-commerce aspect to it, right? You want to close, you want to close sales on the website. The other one is for marketing purposes. So what marketing does is usually lead generation. So I understand, a lot of people think brand is a marketing function. So I hold the opinion is that the CEO should own the brand. So the brand is a business system, and marketing is, supports the brand, and because the brand has customer experience, and that is a very broad like thing as well. So marketing is lead generation. So for the website, it has like brand responsibility, lead generation, and sales conversion. So what do you want to do out of the website? And then that's from organization perspective. Then from what your user perspective, what do they want to achieve when they visit your website? So those are the things that we need to consider. Because Chris talked about a lot about the technology aspect to it. Then I'm more coming from the business strategy part when
It's
we
funny.
talk about website.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because where we've worked together in the past is you were taking a lead on more of the business aspects of the content strategy and kind of representing the technology or the developer side of that, which is what I kind of see. There's an iceberg floating around. We've got to deal with the stuff under the water, which is also a very strategic approach to content, which from a developer's perspective becomes structured data. And that data, images, videos, things to be communicating, all has to be managed and wind up in some kind of CMS somewhere. So it's presented, on a web or an app or a watch or a billboard somewhere. So there's many facets involved in kind of managing that overall kind of strategy and movement of information from one place to the other. I'm just looking at some of the questions we have right here. Jen, do you have an example of a case study? I know you've worked on some larger scale kind of content strategies before, but anything you can reference or refer to and maybe describe some of the unexpecteds, any lessons learned along the way or great examples?
I've been in the digital space for over how many years? Like close to 15 years. So I'm seeing things evolving over the years. And before I used to work for a major Canadian bank, BMO Bank of Montreal. When I first entered, the mainframe, the back end, and front end presentation layer, they're all together. So it's very difficult for marketers to do our content strategy, like because we have one metric is we want to achieve time to market. We want it to be very fast, but the mainframe, has other concerns like security. The bank, right? So then I saw the it evolve over the years, like when the marketing function carved out the presentation layer. I know these days we give it a name like Headless CMS or Headless website. This is when companies wanted that flexibility, and they carve out the front end so that the back end and the front end are not that connected. Then you can develop things much faster at the front end, but then the back end will host your content. So that's one part of your content strategy. And then the difference. So Chris, we talk about taxonomy and sitemap. Those terms will get marketers and non-tech people very confused.
I snuck that in while you were away.
So taxonomy, think about this. It's like how you organize the content. You can organize content by its attributes, right? We have written content, we have visual content, usually images, and written content like blog posts, your white paper, ebooks, things like that. So visual content, images, infographics, and videos, And then we have interactive content like polls, like surveys where we interact with people, like live streaming content, and then videos. And these days we have podcasts, we have audio content. So we can organize
And live
by
video
that
shows.
attribute. Exactly. So when you do that, like this is more internal when the marketing department, the CMO function, how you want to organize the content. But then when it comes to sitemap, right? Imagine that's more about the structure of your website, the visual representation. Then that has a client interface. That's client facing. So that's about how your client navigate, how you help your users, your consumers, your customers, your clients navigate the website. So two different things. It has overlapping. Just wanted to, talk about that. And why do we want to have that differentiation is imagine if, the taxonomy is how you store the content, then you can push it to different interfaces. For instance, we can have intranet, and we push different things on our mobile interface. And, think about internet internet of things, right? How you want to push to your consumer's refrigerator, and that has an interface. So content taxonomy helps you with the entire content organization. Then the interface, has um, has a dependent on user experience and how your customer want to consume your content.
I picked
I'm
up
gonna
on
pause here for a second.
oh, amazing. You just picked up on one of the phrases that you had mentioned just previously around time to market. And then you're talking about platforms and headless and that kind of thing. And one of the, I'm sort of answering a question here as well, which is how do you future-proof your content strategy? What's next for optimization? One of the ideas is to settle in on a platform or on a content hub, let's just say, a place to store the content forever, which is why this idea of decoupled presentation makes a lot of sense, in that you're future proofing because you don't need to move your content anymore. You can always change how it's presented. You can throttle or filter what exactly you want to present. But I think that's the first step in future proofing, is settling on a place where it can just live forever, giving you the opportunity to kind of change it and how it's presented at any time. But also this idea kind of from a trends perspective is kind of iterative migrations, right? You don't need to move
Yes.
the entire like mountain of information over, even though it's valuable information, but it's also there's priority on the value of the information too, so that can be managed in more in segments, I would say. Jen, what are you thinking about? What are you working on next? What's kind of any kind of future state stuff going on as far as you can see from either a design thinking perspective or content perspective?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think the future state is, I'm not like I'm exploring how AI will help the content generation, and I'm assuming like everybody heard of generative AI. So how AI help the workflow, because these days with AI, like I'm doing a lot of experimentation on how AI can help us to be more efficient, like to train all those actions together, things like that, things like that. And I saw one question is what's next for optimization,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm actually curious to know, like, whomever asked that question, like, what optimization mean to you? Like, can we be more specific? Because we used to use a lot of metrics, right, along a customer journey, and see where people drop off, and then how how we optimize. So it doesn't really have an from design thinking perspective, it doesn't have an innovation component to it, because it's making an existing process better, an existing journey better. So for me, it's about metrics. But then we need to define all the metrics before the website project. Like, it's for a sales process, it's like a funnel, right? For each touch point, and we see where people drop off. Then if we can do something on the website to increase that conversion touch point. So does that, is that what you mean, like by optimization? I'm just curious about the question.
We'll assume so. It's hard. I can't quite manage typing stuff in LinkedIn at the same time, but or what if we assume not? Another area of overall kind of optimizing things in the content realm, and you kind of mentioned AI, trying to figure out how to use it wherever we can to make things more efficient and optimized. What we're realizing is there's an opportunity for AI to understand unstructured data, but find patterns in it. So let's say we're doing a migration of 1 million pages, and there's, let's say 10% of it is unstructured data lingering around in different forms here and there. What it's not bad at is kind of just going off, reading through a bunch of unstructured data, but asking it to give it some taxonomy and some structure, or at least categorize type of thematics, which saves us a lot of time. So as far as trends and optimizations go, AI is time saving, as kind of, sending it out on modeled prompts to go do a bunch of stuff and going through what some humans would do, but just faster. So there's another idea there as well, trying to find a place for that. And that's kind of outside of the actual development part of where AI is all interconnected. Getting down to the last minutes here, I just wanted to make sure I was shouting out and saying thanks to everyone for joining us. I'm just looking through questions on our board here. Feel free to ask us anything. Let's just see if we can squeeze in one more question right here. Name an example of a company with a great digital content strategy. Interesting. The first thing that came to mind is kind of retail brands, Uniqlo, for example, that they're really splitting the way they communicate to drive people into stores and also to drive to e-commerce. They're constantly going after a new market, but keeping really tightly coupled with existing customers. So it's very dynamic. They have a brand to be constantly reminding everyone that is innovative and forward thinking. They have to make sure people know that they're priced right, but still cool. I find, that's kind of my go-to for a pretty tight content strategy. It's omni-channel. You have experiences everywhere from big billboards to kind of innovative test marketing. Yes, we've got a minute to go. Janet, have you seen anything cool out there?
Do you want to talk about the website that you've just built? Well, it's a secret. It's confidential.
No, we need a lot more time for that.
Cool.
I love the idea. I did want to make sure that I was able to introduce our next guest coming on April 9th. But before I do that, we're almost out of time. Jen, thanks for joining us and for doing your best to be connected with us from the other side of the world. Thanks to Natalie and Marie for making all this happen. On April 9th, our guest is Derek Vaz. He is a UX expert, friend of Dotfusion, also a brilliant mind and kind of finding the common ground of efficient user experience and kind of making sure that the user journeys fit that kind of fine line between satisfying organizational goals and also the goals of the users. So we're looking forward to having Derek on the show. Thanks to the production team, and mostly thanks to anyone who decided to carve out a bit of their morning to tune in, listen to us, and give us some great questions and some good vibes. So we'll look forward to going back live on April the 9th. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.